Hi everybody, this is Tom from Rocket Restorations, and today we're doing our Barrett Jackson wrap-up. So this is an annual thing we do. This is some of our, a lot of our fans, these are their favorite videos that you see from us. And basically we're just going to kind of doing a breakdown of what happened to Barrett Jackson this year. We did our Mecum video last weekend, so if you haven't seen that, I encourage you to go back to last weekend to go see it. Lots of interesting sales at Barrett Jackson this year. There's a interesting dynamic between Barrett Jackson and Mecum that we'll get into in a minute here. I just think it's kind of interesting, some of the stuff that shows up at one, it doesn't show up at the other. So, all right, well, just to start off, Barrett did $195.2 million this year, which is less than half of what Mecum did, which I think is kind of interesting. But Mecum also goes for 2 weeks. Barrett's like 7 days, 8 days, I think. Mecum obviously has a lot more cars going through there. More cars means more money, but it's also like, ridiculously long. Keep in mind with 95 million that they get 10% on each side of that. So when you're trying to figure out how much money they made, that's a big reason. Keep in mind, some of that's charity. $5.85 million were charity auctions, including $2.6 million just for a ZR1X new Corvette. I think that might have been the first one off the line. I'm not sure. I didn't really see that. But, Barrett does, they're kind of famous for their charity auctions. They actually do really well with them. But I don't cover charity auctions because the prices are just all over the place. You get people who are just, they want the thing that they're bidding on, but they're bidding on it for charity and it goes to charity. So it's not a realistic value. So I don't really cover any of that. They also did $4.7 million just in memorabilia this year. Memorabilia is crazy right now. Some of the prices people are getting for memorabilia right now, it's crazy. Signs, neons, they're just going nuts. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Richmond Auctions, but they've been specializing in sign collections. They just did a car one this year too, and they got more coming, but they're killing it with signs. Signs are still hot. I love signs too. I got porcelain, I got neon here. I love that stuff. Jackson's in its 54th year this year. They've been doing this a long time, and they're a no reserve auction. So generally they allow a couple cars with reserve, but they said this year they had 100% sell-through rate, which is, good and bad. There's good things about that. There's bad things about that. Obviously, if you're a buyer, that's good because it's no reserve. It's going to sell no matter what. And when you bring your car to that auction, it's going to sell. So that's a plus. The downside is there's no reserve. So if there's nobody in the room, if it goes late, if it goes early in the week. I've had a couple of personal experiences with Barrett Jackson no reserve auctions that I won't get into now, but mostly disappointed with some of the stuff I brought through there, but it is what it is. Kind of an interesting thing, fairly recently, so Craig Jackson's the owner of Barrett Jackson Auctions. He actually sold off a majority share of the auction fairly recently to another company, to an entertainment company. So Barrett definitely kind of, skews towards the entertainment industry. So they're quote unquote ultimate automotive lifestyle experience. And that's kind of what they play to. Mecum's are fun auctions, there's lots of stuff going on, but Barrett has the alcohol running, there's a lot of just rich guys bidding, that's kind of the Barrett Jackson thing. There's a lot of what I call the bro culture. It's like lifted trucks, big wheels, restomods, customs. That's the kind of stuff Barrett that they kind of lean towards. They still do stock stuff, but it just seems lately Mecum seems to be getting the better cars lately as far as stock stuff. And that's kind of what I concentrate on. Obviously, we're a restoration shop. We work on mostly Mopars. We concentrate on more stock stuff. So that's generally what I've seen. So there's still usually good cars that go through Barrett, but it's definitely skewed more towards resto mod stuff and modified stuff because it's kind of the bro culture, alcohol. That's kind of, what you see more at Barrett than what you see at Mecum. And Barrett just seems to have a lot more dealers too. There's a lot more dealers buying and selling there. It tends to be a place where dealers kind of dump their inventory. I've seen that a lot. There's a lot of not so good cars going through there. And that's a reason for it, dealers dumping inventory. Another interesting thing is, Mecum went to ESPN Plus this year. So they used to be on, Motor Trend channel. I recorded all of them. Now they're on ESPN Plus. And as a college basketball fan, I've had some the user interface on ESPN Plus is terrible. Like, the really nice part on the DVR, I'm probably not the only guy out here who does this, but like, I would just kind of fast forward to the auctions to see the Mopars. Well, on ESPN Plus, it made it a lot harder. Well, Barrett's still on like regular TV, so you can actually record it and watch it, which is kind of nice. I don't know, it's just a small thing, but it just kind of bugged me a little bit. So, all right, well, that's enough of me rambling on the opening. Let's get to some of the cars. First car up here is a lot 1167.2, a 1970 Plymouth AAR Cuda. The car is EV2 Tour Red, which is kind of interesting because it kind of looks more FE5 in the picture. It's more of a medium red than Tour Red, but I don't know. And keep in mind, Tour Red's the Plymouth color. Hemi Orange is the Dodge color. So, and if you say it wrong, more people get mad at you. This one was a 4-speed, but it sold for $78,100, which just seemed that's really low for an AAR. And I couldn't really see a lot on this that like was a huge red flag why it sold for that much. I mean, driver AARs tend to be, you know, kind of the close to 6 digits. The really nice ones are definitely over that, but this is a 4-speed. It had the hood's nice and bent on it, which is actually considered correct on these. The hoods weren't that strong. They were hood pinned on the front with the hood springs, so they kind of put pressure on them because they've got a fiberglass hood. The car sits really high. Like, you just look at the pictures, it just looks like it's, I don't know, it looks like a 4x4. It's sitting up really high. Definitely an older restoration. Not super correct under the hood. You know, it has electronic ignition. They drilled holes in the firewall for the box. You know, the exhaust is rusty, which is technically correct on these. You know, they painted the exhaust manifolds from the factory, and then it would burn off, and then, you know, they get a rusty finish on it. You know, no mention of numbers matching, you know, no broadcast sheet, none of that stuff's mentioned. So it could have that stuff, but you kind of read auction speak. If it doesn't say that, it generally doesn't. So, you know, you kind of have to read between the lines here on some of these auctions. But yeah, I just thought that was a kind of a low price for an AR. It seemed like a decent deal for that car, even the condition it was in. Next one here is a 70 Charger. This one is far from stock. It's I believe it's the car from the F9, the Fast Saga. So a movie car. It says in the auction it was. You know, I have no way of actually you know, confirming that. Movie cars always do really well at auctions. You know, they've never really been my thing. It's not what I collect. But I can understand where it's coming from. And the same thing with, I've been over this before in my videos, you know, I don't like autographs on cars. You know, it's like you have a Silverbird and it's signed by Richard Petty. It doesn't do anything for me. Or a Carroll Shelby's who signed 50% of GT500 Shelby's out there. It just doesn't add any value to me or interest me. And movie cars are kind of the same way. This thing was originally a 383 two-barrel car. You know, it's like they're not going to cut up an RT to make a movie car out of it. You know, it doesn't really matter much in a car like this. They did put an LS motor in it, which yuck, Chevy motor. But like, I mean, it's a movie car. They're just slapping it together to get it running for the movie. They don't really care. The fit and finish on these cars is never that good. The other interesting thing is like, there really weren't any like nice stock Chargers at this auction. Like, everything was modified. Like, there's a lot of nice E-bodies, and I cover a lot of E-bodies in this because there just wasn't that much interesting B-body stuff to cover. There's one Roadrunner we'll get to. I did a video on last weekend. But I just think it's kind of interesting. Like, there just wasn't any good stock Chargers here. So I didn't cover them because there really wasn't anything that interesting. And that Charger, I don't think I mentioned the lot number at the start. It was lot 1456.2 and sold for $137,500. I don't know if that's good money or not. It's a movie car. You just never know on these. Next car up is lot 1386, a 1970 Hemi Dodge Challenger. This one got huge money. It does look like a good car, but it got $467,500. Almost $500,000 for a Challenger is a huge number. Challengers always kind of seem to be second fiddle to the Cuda. It's just kind of how it is. It's always been the Mopar pecking order. You know, Plymouth is a performance car, Dodge is a little higher end, so Cudas tend to get more money. And it's just interesting because I mean, I don't know if Challengers are catching up, and I think part of it too is, you know, the ultimate muscle car is a 1971 Plymouth Hemi Cuda. You know, we covered one at the Mecum auction last weekend in our video. But the thing with the Challenger, for some reason, you cannot get a 71 Challenger RT convertible. I don't know why. You get a 340 in one, but you cannot get, there's no Hemis, there's no 383s. And I think that's part of it. You know, the halo of the 71 Hemi Cuda convertible really helps the value on those. And it's kind of held Challenger down. But I mean, this was huge money for this. This car sold at Mecum in 2020 for $258,500. So it basically doubled in value in 6 years, which is pretty crazy. But keep in mind too, like when you talk about values, it's kind of hard. It's hard to do apples to apples, because inflation was really rampant in 2001, 2002. Also there was a huge run up in value of cars. When COVID hit, everyone was stuck at home. No one knew what to do with themselves. So they were working on projects, they were buying cars. That's when the online auctions really blew up. Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, those like really, really blew up at the time. And they just got, people were comfortable buying stuff online that weren't before. And it's just kind of interesting. It's kind of a, even with inflation, I mean, that's still a couple $100,000 over what it sold for in 2020. It had a broadcast sheet, had the fender tag, the Wise report. Dave Wise, he does all the inspections of the cars at Barrett Jackson. He's their Mopar expert that makes sure all the cars going through are real. 4-speed Dana, it's a good color. Saying that, it's also a very common color. Purple is still a plus. People like purple, Plum Crazy. It's a great color name, FC7. But that was the most popular color on a 1970 Challenger RT. They made 137 Hemi cars, and 30 of them were FC7, which is kind of crazy. This car didn't have any stripes either, just very plain looking car, all striped Elite, but very strong money for a 1970 Hemi Challenger. Next car up, I just thought this was cool. Like, I'm a stock guy. I say that over and over in these videos, but I would drive this one. So it's lot 711. It's a Dodge Lil Red Express, and but it's not just a Lil Red Express. It has a 426 Hemi in it, and not just a 426 Hemi in it. It has a Keith Black built dual spark plug motor. Just a bullet. This thing is awesome, and it's actually built off a real Little Red. They post the VIN numbers on the Barrett Jackson auction, so you can tell it was a real Lil Red Express. It says Pro Red on the back. It's super cool. It definitely looks like an older build. You can kind of look at the parts and kind of like tell what year it was built in. Apparently it was in Mopar Action Magazine in the year 2000. So again, that kind of dates it a little bit. They added the Sniper EFI. That was probably a more recent thing, because Hemi, they don't run that well. And, this one looks like it's built like, I don't know if any of you out there have a lot of experience with Hemis, but once you build a Hemi, they're kind of hard to live with. It's basically a detuned race motor, and then you do a dual spark plug Keith Black Hemi. Like, they're not that streetable. They just start hard. They're hard to run, whatever. So putting in the EFI on probably helped with that a little bit. So, but I just thought that was kind of an interesting build. And this thing sold for $59,400, which, I don't know. Little Reds tend to be kind of, 25 to 35, 40 for like really, really nice ones. Obviously cheaper for projects. But that Hemi isn't cheap. It's not cheap to build a Hemi like that. So I kind of have a Mopar bucket list of cars. I've owned a lot of Mopars over the years, but I've actually never owned a Lil Red Express truck. So one of these days I'll own one. I just got a Warlock this year, but I really want a real Lil Red at some point. Back to another E-body here, and again, I apologize for all the E-bodies, but those were really the most interesting cars at the auction, at least to me. So this one was lot 1354, 1971 Plymouth Cuda. Interesting, this one was a black V-code car, really good looking car. I'm actually trying to, I just recently found a black V-code car I'm trying to buy right now. We'll see if that happens or not. It'll definitely be on the channel if it happens. This one's just kind of an interesting car, just for the documentation on this car. So this car's had multiple fender tags over the years. So, and I have documentation on this. So it's had, they made a fake tag for it, then they made another fake tag for it and added the options. And the problem when you do that is it casts everything in the car in doubt. So, on a Mopar with the VIN, you can tell what the motor is. So if the VIN is V, it's a 446 barrel car. If it's R, it's a Hemi, N is a 334 barrel, et cetera, et cetera. You can't verify anything else. So unless you have other documentation, you can't tell if it's a 4-speed. You can't tell what the color was. On a 71 Cuda, like one of the biggest options on a Cuda is the billboard stripe. So it's that giant stripe on the quarter panel. And on a 71 Cuda, looking at the production numbers, it's about a third. So a third of them got the billboard. a third of them got nothing, and a third of them got the vinyl side molding, the really ugly bump strip on there, which nobody puts back on. But billboards are rare, and you don't see them on the cars very often original. So when they have it originally, when they originally came with that, it's really rare and adds a lot of value to the car. This one got $275,000, which just seems like really strong money for a car that doesn't have a lot of documentation. So, especially when you can't trust any of those options. So, but yeah, so I don't know what to tell you on this one. That seems like a lot of money for a car that doesn't have a lot of documentation. So, but that's just my opinion. Wanted to highlight a couple trucks here too. There's definitely some interesting sales here. So if you guys haven't been watching the first gen Cummins market, it's coming hard. So this is lot 848.1, a 1993 Dodge Ram 350 dually. So did you know that people are doing frame up restorations on first gen Cummins? Because they are. This one got $84,700. That's insane. Keep in mind, like, you know, the first gen Cummins checks a lot of boxes for feature collectability. So it's something that was usually fairly popular when they were new, and not many of them survived. I mean, the Cummins motors are great. They go 300,000 miles without even blinking at it, and there are work trucks. So like, it's really, really hard to find one in good condition anymore. So like the low mile, really good condition, or the restored ones are getting huge money right now. It's also extremely hard to find good parts for these cars. The NOS stuff ran out years ago, and it's just really, really hard to find this stuff. So they make a lot of this stuff. So like, they make the grills for these. So the grills are like that big chrome thing that covers the entire nose of the truck. And they're really easily damaged because they're plastic and they're really, really fragile. So they're really hard to find. So they repop the grills, but the problem is they make them in Taiwan and they don't have the Dodge on them. So the factory ones that are correct have the Dodge letters on the front. They're little black inserts that go in the top, and it's really easy to tell reproduction from not. I actually cleaned out a dealership a few years ago, and they had like an attic full of like 92, 93 Dodge truck parts, and I didn't even like, I put like a bumper up on eBay, and then like, I had a guy like, oh, do you have any other stuff? Well, it was insane what I sold some of this stuff for, and like, he offered it to me, which probably meant it was worth more money, but I had an NOS front bumper I got $1,000 for. I got $2,000 for the grill. And then I got a shifter knob. I couldn't find any others for sale. Just a shifter knob, the 5-speed shifter knob, which has like kind of a pebble finish to it. And they always wear down. Like, because again, 300,000 miles shifting with the 5-speed. I got $500 for that shifter knob. And keep in mind, like, you're probably saying like, oh, you're being greedy with this stuff. Like, that's what I was offered for it. I didn't list it on eBay for that. Someone like learned the parts I had and then made me an offer for the stuff, and it was an offer I couldn't refuse. So, but just saying, like, if you know of a really clean first gen Cummins, first of all, call me because I'm interested. But they're getting really hard to find and getting very, very valuable. I'm actually doing a Cummins swap on a 72 crew cab right now. Jamie from Dead Dodge Garage is helping out with that. He's gonna have a video on that this weekend as well. Up and over his channel to see that. But I really think that's kind of where the market's going right now. Other interesting thing is there's a dealer installed tack on there, which those are extremely hard to find. It looks like an aftermarket. They just kind of mounted on top of the dash. But actually just the truck I parted out for my crew cab swap was a super high mile, super rusty 92 Cummins intercooled. But they actually had a factory tack on it, and I'm saving that. And I might put that in my truck. We'll see. One thing that's been super hot in the Mopar market, like without exception, like they're just tearing it up right now, is pink cars. And there was a pink one at the auction. This one has a very cool option. So it was lot number 1090. It's a 1970 Plymouth Cuda, real 340 car. But what's cool about this one is it's FM3, Moulin Rouge, the Plymouth color. Panther pink is Dodge. But what's cool about this one is it has the V4M stripe. So it's a magenta side stripe. It's really cool. It's actually funny. If you go into the parts book, there's actually a couple other stripes for Barracudas that I think they were planning on doing and canceled. Like, there was one that was called the Aquarius stripe. You know, this is the age of Aquarius, you know, and a couple others. And this stripe almost looks like it's like something that was half-baked, and then they kind of put it on the car anyways. But what a cool stripe. So basically a pink on pink stripe. They had the same thing on Sassafras. They had a chartreuse chartreuse. I think I got that right. Bright green stripe on that. And they're super rare. I don't know what the production numbers is on that. I'd be really curious to know if anybody knows, say in the comments, but not very many. So this car's got a lot going for it. So it's obviously pink, Moulin Rouge, has the stripe. It's a real 340 car. It's air conditioning. AC used to be a downside on these things. People like that stuff now because people like driving their cars, so they like having AC. And it's not like a perfect car. It's kind of just a decent driver level car. It's not like super detailed underneath the hood or anything like that, but it's a nice car. It's a nice restoration. You know, the fender tags there. Here's a picture of that, and it is absolutely loaded. Like 2-tag car, 8-track, rally dash, has the louver package, has the spoiler package. I mean, it doesn't get much better. I mean, you know, it's a real Cuda. Like, you see pink cars out there, and it's pretty rare that they're a, you know, quote unquote high performance car. You know, a Charger RT or a Cuda or a Challenger RT. You know, most you see are just kind of pedestrian slant 6 318 cars. A lot of dealers ordered them back in the days, like just a car to put on the lot to attract attention. You know, you see a pink car on the lot, maybe it brings some female buyers in, but wow, what a cool car. And it brought the money, $198,000, which is insane. I mean, if this was just a regular 340 Cuda, I mean, it's probably half that, you know, maybe not even that. I mean, like, you know, I've seen 340 cars in the $60,000, $70,000 range. So it might be, you know, 3x what a normal one would be worth for something like this. But what a cool car. Really liked it. Here's another interesting result. This one's another E-body. It's lot 1440. 1970 Dodge Challenger RT, and it's a Hemi 4-speed car. I just think this one's kind of interesting. This one got $280,000. The other one got $467,000. And it just shows you what a difference numbers matching means. This one's got broadcast sheet, Dave Wise report, all that stuff, but like, and it's Hemi orange, which Hemi orange is a good color. It's definitely a plus, a high impact paint. You actually had to pay extra money for those back in the day, the real high end ones. But you know, I think purple may be a little bit more interesting, but that's the difference. So the other one was numbers matching. This one isn't. There's a, don't do math on camera, but it's almost $200,000 difference just because of numbers matching. So if you're buying a blue chip muscle car, make sure it's got a fender tag, make sure it's got a sheet, make sure it's numbers matching. This one was just insane. Obviously, I'm a Mopar guy. That's most of what I show, but I saw this result and I don't understand it at all. So it was lot 1426, a 1966 Lincoln Continental convertible. I've always liked these. I don't know. I guess it's kind of my generation. The show Entourage on HBO back when I was in college. I always liked that. And they had a black Continental, you know, suicide door. I just think it's a real classic look, you know, the slab sides. In fact, you know, it's probably a reason why I like the 65 to 68 Chryslers so much, because the guy who designed the Continental ended up at Mopar, Elwood Engel. And there are a lot of similarities. There's a reason they call the C-bodies the slab sides. The 65 to 68 C-bodies are called slab sides. But they're just classic, you know, classic design, very cool, you know, the whole Kennedy thing. I mean, there's a lot going with these things. But this sold for $1.1 million. Like, I saw pictures of it online. It did not look that nice, like, at all. It really did not look that nice. Apparently it has salvage title. I don't know why it has salvage title, but it had a salvage title. And I don't even know what to say about that. Like, that's just insane result for this thing, and I don't understand it. So, but that was kind of my out of left field. I can't believe what this sold for, but that's what happens at Barrett Jackson. You know, you have to pay for your slots at Barrett Jackson. So you pay more for your entry fee to run on Friday, Saturday, on the weekend when everybody's there and the alcohol's flowing and all the rich people are there. And this guy, whoever sold this, paid up to do it. I mean, it was a resto mod, but yeah, that's crazy. $1.1 million. I had to cover this one. So this is definitely an interesting car. I did a whole video on this last weekend. It's over 100,000 views now. People really liked it. I kind of like went through, well, okay. It's a 1969 Plymouth Roadrunner. And what's interesting about this car is the VIN tag shows that it's a Hemi car. So it's RM23J, J is Hemi. And it had a fake fender tag. It didn't have a core support number on it. So there's supposed to be two body numbers, one on the trunk rail, one on the core support. I have found out a lot more about this car since I posted that video last weekend. And I'm going to go in depth on it on another video, probably next weekend. I'm still waiting to hear back from a couple people, but I'll just leave it at this. They didn't build Hemi cars at LA, so it couldn't have been a Hemi car from LA. So was it fake? Was it real? Again, I'm going to have another video next weekend where I'm going to kind of go over that a little bit more. Just keep in mind, a guy named Dave Wise inspects every car at Barrett Jackson, and every car is thoroughly vetted before it runs. So I'll just leave it at that for now. But stay tuned for more on this. But this sold for $78,000. I just thought this truck was pretty neat. This was lot 712. It means it ran a little earlier in the week. It's a 1962 Dodge W200 Power Wagon crew cab. I love these things. I love the way they look. I just think they're so cool. They're ridiculously rare. Dodge made very few crew cabs, and the vast majority of them were military. And this one was too. There's a little tag on the dash that has what branch it was, but a lot of these were Air Force. They were made to like bring crews out to planes on the tarmac. It was a long drive from, the hangar to out where the planes were. So they did that. They had a bunch of different uses, but I just think these are so cool. But this one's a slant 6. Like it's not fast. And it's got the big wheels, the grabby tires, all the usual stuff you do to these things. It probably has a little bit of a lift to it too. It looks like nice. They did diamond plate in the bed, which I'm not a big fan of. I don't know what they were doing there. The step sides on these had wood. This is supposed to be a steel bed, so maybe it wasn't nice they did that. I just think it looks a little tacky with the diamond plate. And this thing's just beastie, but it sold for $59,400, which is crazy. So, but that's what they go for. People really like these because this is a car. This is a truck that you can just go in and drive. You can put your kids in the back seat. You can have friends go with you. I just love crew cabs. There was an auction in Montana last summer. I did a video on that too that had a bunch of these. They had like 5 or 10 of them or something like that. And the prices just went crazy on it. People just love projects like this. So I'm actually doing a 72. I mentioned this earlier in the video, but I'm doing a 72 Dodge crew cab right now, 3/4 ton. Jamie from Dead Dodge Garage is doing the swap right now. So there'll be a video on that this weekend. But I really like these things, and I'm building one myself right now, so we'll see what it ends up looking like when I'm done with it. All right, 2 more cars here, and these are kind of just an interesting contrast, and this is a great example of why you can't take auction results as gospel. So it's kind of like when you're, what's the best way to put this? Like when you're grading like when you're grading something, like you kind of take out the outliers. So like if there's, somebody gets 100, somebody gets a 10, and then everybody else is 60, 70. Like, you kind of throw out the outliers. And I think these cars were both outliers, that what you see at an auction. So first one here is lot 1077.2. It's a 1970 Hemi Cuda, and it sold for $231,000. I want to get the number right there. What's interesting about this one is it was listed at Kissimmee. I swear every time I say that, everybody always corrects me on how to pronounce it. I'm always messing it up, but I'm kind of over it. But it went for 165, no sale. So it's kind of interesting, compare and contrast. At Mecum last year, it got 165. This year, it got 230 at Barrett. Of course, no reserve, so it was going to sell regardless. But that's a 70,000 bump in price from the 2 auctions. I just thought that was interesting. I don't think it really says much, but I just thought that was kind of interesting. This one's not numbers matching. It has a warranty motor. It's kind of cool in these warranty motors. They have blue tags on them. They kind of show like the specs, how they came in and everything. And this has that. It's pretty easy just to add that to a warranty block without a VIN, but it's real common to find Hemi blocks without VINs. There's a ton of warranty blocks out there. A lot of these got blown up, and they made a lot over the counter. Like a lot of racers had them and stuff. So it's pretty common to find a Hemi block without a VIN, but it's nice. I mean, if you don't have a numbers matching block, that's kind of the second best thing, basically. Then you can say, oh, it was a warranty block back in the day. I mean, if you don't have paperwork on it, but whatever. So, but yeah, this one was red. It was a 4-speed. The other kind of funny thing here is my brother took a little video of this thing down at a Barrett, and I kind of have to show you this here. They had a misspelling on the windshield. But you spend all this money to bring a car to an auction like this, probably want to spell 4-speed correctly. Just saying. last car here, and again, this is kind of a compare and contrast here. So the previous car we're talking about is a 70 Hemi Cuda with a Hemi, you know, non-numbers matching, sold for $231,000. This car is a 71 Cuda, and it sold for $270,000. So 71 Cudas are worth more than 70s. People like them more. The shark tooth grille, the fin fenders, you know, all that fun stuff. They're definitely worth more money than a 70. But this one was originally a 340 car and had a 446 barrel added to it. So it wasn't the original engine. They added a shaker to it. They added all these options to it. So I featured a car in my Mecum video that was a 71 Dodge Demon. They got crazy money. It was like $126,000. That car had a bunch of changes to it. It was automatic to a 4-speed. They made a white interior. They did a bunch of stuff to it. This is the same thing. So they did a bunch of stuff to this thing. Saying that, that's insane. A 340 Cuda should never sell more than a Hemi Cuda, even if it's a 71 versus 70. And from what I'm told, and it had 17-inch wheels, which I don't mind the 17-inch rally wheels. The aluminum ones that Year One sells. We did it on a Charger fairly recently, but you know, when you have a 71 Cuda, I don't really like the look. I think stock wheels just look better on it, unless you're doing a full resto mod, and this definitely was not that. But I talked to a few people that were in the room when this car went, and I was told that they're again, I don't know this, I'm not gonna say this for sure, but they thought there might have been some quote unquote chandelier bidding going on. So what that means is basically the auction house bids on the car without anybody in the room. And that is a legal thing to do. We had some comments in the last video about that, but I talked to multiple people who said they didn't see anyone else in the room bidding on that car. And apparently the guy who was bidding on it had his 10-year-old son bidding on it, and kept on putting it up. And it went for $270,000. And the car looked great on the, you know, on the stage. A lot going for it, but for a clone, recreation, whatever you want to call it, you know, it is a real Cuda, it's a real 340 Cuda. Wasn't a real 6-barrel car, wasn't a shaker car, didn't have billboards, didn't have any of that stuff, but they added all that to it, and they got the money for it. So whoever's selling that, congratulations to you. You hit that thing out of the park. Well, let's wrap this thing all up here. So, you know, I kind of talked about in the video, we've been over all this, you know, Mecum versus Barrett. I kind of gave some of my thoughts on where I thought the market was right now. In the Mecum video, I'll kind of repeat some of those here. You know, the top of the market's still hot. Like, you know, everybody says people may be struggling. I think there's like low-income people are struggling right now. Middle class are doing okay. Upper class people, I think they're doing pretty good right now. You know, there's been some tax cuts, and like people got money to spend right now. They got money burning a hole in their pockets. The high-end stuff's going for really good money right now. The good cars are getting great money. You can see the not so good cars aren't. So like, you know, usually when you see a result that's, you know, not as good, it usually means there's a problem. Like on the Hemi Cuda we just mentioned, it wasn't numbers matching. It had a warranty motor, so it didn't get that much money because it wasn't numbers matching. On the 2 Challengers, the one gets, you know, 25% more, or maybe more than that. Again, I'm not doing math on camera. It's a bad idea. It got that much more because the one was numbers matching and one wasn't. That's more important than ever. Having documentation, having numbers matching, all that stuff makes a huge difference. And, you know, and Barrett, you know, they've kind of pivoted a little bit, which is smart. It's a smart business move. You know, they don't have a reserve. So a lot of the really nice Mopars have been going to Mecum lately, and they pivoted. Now they're doing more resto mod stuff. They're doing more, you know, the late model supercars, you know, like the F1s, the Ford GTs, that kind of stuff. You know, modern Corvettes, you know, and they're doing really well with that stuff. And that stuff's really hot right now. You know, it's like my generation, I'm on the younger side for the hobby. I'm in my mid 40s now. And, you know, the stuff from the 80s and 90s is stuff I grew up with. You know, in the car magazines, you'd see, you know, twin turbo 94 Supra, you know, and those are 6-figure cars now, because that was the car we dreamed about when we were younger, and they've all been abused and there just aren't any left anymore. So those are the cars that are really hot right now and really going up, and people still want an analog experience. You know, it's like you can't buy stick anymore. So, you know, stick cars are getting a huge premium because that's what people want. People want 4-speeds. You know, there's certain people out there who won't buy numbers matching cars. They won't buy automatics. And I understand that. I don't agree with that. But I understand that. But that really limits the value of a non-numbers matching car that's an automatic. So you just have to keep that in mind with this stuff. So well, I hope everybody enjoyed the video. I appreciate everybody for watching. This is Tom from Rocket Restorations, and we'll talk to you soon.